Hey, super excited for tonight's conversation. This is the Live and Share podcast. I'm your host, Marilyn Shaw, and we'll be talking about Black women's mental health. Tonight's special guest is Dr. Keita Joy. We'll be diving in tonight, having a great conversation about this. Can't wait. Cannot wait. Super excited. I'm going to go ahead and add her in here just a moment. The cool thing about all of this is Dr. Keita and we have a very similar story. So very excited to get into it tonight. Do me a favor, if you're a replay watcher, hit replay. There we go.
Hi, testing.
Hey,
testing. How does that
perfect.
sound?
Perfect.
Hey,
yes.
I'll take perfect.
Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and share this out, and then we'll kick it right off.
Okay. And hello, all of Maryland's tribe out there. You want to tune in this evening? We're going to have some real candid conversations about things that matter most. I'm so
Absolutely.
excited. So thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for taking time to be on. I know that you're super busy. And before we get into the conversation, let me do a proper introduction. Dr. Keita Joy, she is the success coach. She's actually the founder of Success Uncensored. She's been featured on OWN with Iyanla Vanzant talking about overcoming fear. She's worked with the NFL Association. She's done some tremendous work. She's been featured in Forbes. And tonight we are unveiling a little bit more behind the scenes of what makes her so dynamic is her transparency. And the one thing that she always talks about is mental health. And recently she was featured doing a talk on TED Talk about mental health, specifically around Black women and how we are overlooked. We're looked at as this strong woman doing everything, checking off the boxes, running that marathon. However, no one stops to give us a helping hand, or no one really stops to check on the inner work inside of us. So let's kick off the conversation with you talking about your story about mental health.
Woo, my story. Oh my gosh. It's kind of like, where do you start? Well, I just want to first say thank you so much for having me this evening, and just for your courage and boldness to talk about the things that matter most, especially in our community. And mental health, especially now, we're in a season where many people are using the phrase Black grief. We're experiencing a lot of that right now because of the racial discrimination, systemic oppression, right? And so I think for me, this stems back, let's go to 8 years old. Let's kind of camp out there. So I was 8 years old. My mother and father, they divorced around that time, and that was difficult. It was a blessing, though. They did amazing when it came to co-parenting. So I saw my father on the weekends. We had a really, really close relationship. And fast forward, when I turned 11 years old, I came home from school one day, and that's when we went outside. Y'all don't go outside no more. My kids don't go outside. They go to basketball practice, soccer practice, or they're on their Nintendo Switch or something. But kids just don't be outside. So I went to school. I came home. I'm 11. I'm getting ready to put my books down, and we go outside. And that day, my mom was like, "Sit down. I need to talk to you for a second." And I'm like, "We don't do that." I come home and I go outside. And so she sat me down, and I can just see that she had this different demeanor. And she told me that my father passed away suddenly. We weren't living together, so, it wasn't something I had access to see and be close to him. And it was just such a traumatic experience for me. I'm an only child. I am a daddy's girl, and I still say that in present tense. He still means the world to me, and I believe God, and He's watching over me as well. And so I took that news really, really hard. I mean, hard. Just psychologically, it was difficult to process information, to stay focused in school. It was because my whole mind was just consumed with losing this father figure. And to deal with all that anxiety, I started to pull my hair. And, especially in the Black community, our hair is like a staple point of who we are,
Yes.
even as
Yes.
early as middle school, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so here I am. Hair is everything, but for me to cope with my anxiety, my sadness, the loss of my father, I just began pulling my hair out, and I just had such a difficult time dealing with anxiety, dealing with loss, and not feeling like I had anywhere I could go to deal with those feelings. My mom is amazing, but she battled with drugs and alcohol off and on, so she wasn't able to be that present support system like she would have liked to have been during that time. And so that's when it really sparked my mental health journey, figuring out how do you cope with loss? How do you cope with sadness? How do you cope with resentment and anger
Mm-hmm.
and frustration? How do you deal with shame? Because I started to feel shame and trying to cover that up because you don't tell people you pull your hair out. You don't,
Right.
especially as a kid, cover it up. Love, she was helping me, but at the same time, she didn't give me any other resources to deal with that. So I would say, between 8 all the way to 11 years old in that bracket, that's where I was really faced with a lot of mental health issues and feeling like I didn't have anywhere to go to deal with the pain that I was dealing with and just learn how to push through. You still got to push through.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And it's so interesting because that's still how people deal with their issues now. It's easier for them to kind of just tuck it away, put it in the closet, and to push through, especially for Black women. We hold on to so many things. So you have your home life, your work life, your goals, your family, all these different things that you're expected to be for other people. But yet we always tend to neglect ourselves. We're good
But
at
think about it,
be
Marilyn. We never had a safe space. And that's what I
no,
talked about in my TED Talk. Even when I used to watch movies, I never saw a black woman as a hero or a damsel in distress. I'm like, I want to be rescued. Help me. I
absolutely.
want, black women want help, but we never saw that as even an option for us. Medically,
Absolutely.
mentally, physically, feeling like we had a safe space to receive help. And so what do? We internalize that and think, okay, well, it's just me, myself, and I. The whole, remember, that
Absolutely.
whole independent woman,
Yes.
superwoman. We just gotta
Yes.
keep pushing through when we putting on strength like it's some big cape and badge of honor when really internally like we're hurting inside.
So for you, talk about when was a turning point where you realize it's okay to be goal focused, it's okay to go after your dreams, but something's off. I need to really shift my perspective and shift my mindset to pay attention to me and my
Yeah, it's a journey. So when I was 19 years old, that's when I really started to discover the beauty of God, the love of God, His mercy, His faithfulness, His goodness. I was exposed to it before that, but 19 was that catalyst year where God was like, no, baby, I don't think you know who I am. Let
mental.
me come in and show you who I am. I am a God that will cover your wounds. That my burden, you can cast all your anxieties on me because I care for you. Those things before were so foreign to me. And so through my relationship with God, I started to see, oh, it's, now as a coach, confessing your sins is deeper than just, oh, tell somebody what you did wrong. Talk about it. No,
Exactly.
confessing your sins means be transparent, be vulnerable,
Absolutely.
be open. That you should have
Yes.
safe spaces to talk. And they don't teach that the right way a lot of churches. It's like
Right.
confessing sin, it sounds so like a big bad wolf and you're in
Mm-hmm.
trouble and you're going to be in timeout with God, and God's like, no, I'm a safe space for you to talk to me about how you feel. So 19 was the beginning, where I really started to see it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to not have it all together because that's what Jesus paid for. He paid for me
Absolutely.
not to have it all together. So that's when it started. But then when it came to really understanding what my mental health issue was, it was a journey. It wasn't then
Mm-hmm.
until like late 20s. And I
Yeah.
finally was like, Keita, you're still pulling your hair. You started
Mm.
this at 11. You're
Right.
25. Like,
Right.
we're going to have to dig a little deeper and see what's going on. And after
Yeah.
I did research, then in my 20s, going on Google, right, I realized that I had a mental illness called trichotillomania, a repetitive hair pulling disorder. And when I went to my very first seminar about it, I went as the keynote speaker because I'm crazy. But when I went there, it was like 500 people who had this mental hair pulling disorder, and only two other people were black, Marilyn.
Wow.
So that lets
Wow.
you know almost all those people in there knew how to get support.
Right.
At an early age, I saw
Right.
white kids in there getting the help that they need. And I'm like,
Right.
man, that would have been nice when I was 11.
Exactly.
I didn't know that there were
Exactly.
these types of support groups available for me. And so I'm going to a conference, about 500 white people, and I see these little kids getting the help that they need. And I said, my
Absolutely.
God, I need that. Black people need that. We need
Mhm.
those safe spaces and those supports, you know? And
Mhm.
so that's why I say it was a journey, but I don't beat myself up about it. I thank God that He allows you to realize things when you're supposed to realize them. And
Absolutely.
I'm grateful that finally I did realize what the condition was so I can continue being on this journey
Absolutely.
of self help and self love.
I love the fact that you talked about how your faith played a major part with understanding and how to work through the anxiety that you were dealing with as a child. And it's so ironic because the church is supposed to represent that safe place and haven for people to be able to be whole and made, new and transformed. But somewhere along the way, that's been missed. People haven't been able to see that. And I love that your journey represents that wholeness through Christ, in addition to dealing with all areas of your life, and especially
Yes.
not being in a place to where people look at mental health as just it's a secret, just that's just how they are. But in reality,
Oh,
people are dealing
Marilyn.
with real issues, and
And
it
my
shows
thing too
up.
can and my thing too with that, Marilyn, is that I see people with the right heart talking about mental health awareness, but everybody talks about it as if they're the educator. I'm like, well, dang,
Mm,
who's the person who actually got the mental health issue? Because I'm like, I
exactly.
don't think people understand that still doesn't make people feel safe. It still seems like you
Exactly.
got it all together. You're the one with all the resources, and I'm the one over here who got the issues. So that's why I try to show people, yes, I have a doctorate. Yes, I'm married. Yes, I've been on own, and I'm just like you. I
Right.
struggle just like you. I got anxiety just like you. I deal with depression sometimes just like you. I still pull my hair sometimes. Like we're in the same boat. It is a
Right.
journey, and we are all growing and figuring out the best way to take care of ourselves every single day. But I think people don't realize they're doing that. They're always coming
Yes.
across, I'm the teacher. This is what you got to do. And then, but you're still scaring people because they're like, well, who's like me? Who needs help
Exactly.
like me? So
Exactly.
that's such a good point. Yes.
Absolutely. And even now, when you think about this whole pandemic, people are now forced to be in their homes, forced to pay attention to the things that they just put to the side. And I think what's really happening is people are now coming face to face with who they really are. For so long, when you think about when you have your to do list, you feel like that is who you are. But now, when you're in a place where you don't have that to do list, you don't have that sense of normalcy like you used to, you now are put in a position to where you have to face head on those issues that you're dealing with. You work with so many leaders, so many successful people, and you have this conversation with them all the time about your success prescription. Talk to us about that.
Absolutely. So my success prescription is to do you, do it well, and do it consistently. It's simple, but it's profound, and it works every time. And it helps to decrease your anxiety and stress level because you're learning how to focus on what matters most: your purpose, your priorities, your lane. So doing you is figuring out, okay, well, Stephen Covey calls them your big rocks. What are the most important aspects of your life? That's doing you. What are your values? What are your strengths? What are your talents? All of that is doing you. What makes you you? Then you want to figure out, okay, do it well. And I'm big on this, and people don't understand. They miss out on so many miracles because they lack excellence. I don't
Mm,
care what you're doing. You better show up and show out. I don't care if you washing dishes. You better get every little speckle off of that spoon and bowl. Like do everything with the right heart. Give your heart because you never know who's watching. And we all know because you're a faith-filled woman who's always watching is God. And
yes,
God's and then what people don't
absolutely.
understand is you're like, oh, I don't want to do this, but God's the one who holds the miracles. So even if nobody else sees, God saw it. Ain't that who you want to see it anyway? Because that's the one that's gonna bless you.
Exactly.
So nobody else saw you load that dishwasher in excellence, but God did. And I know
Exactly.
it sounds funny, but you will reap what you sow. So it's doing you, doing it well, which is in utter excellence. And people know that when I was a first grade teacher, third grade teacher, I was always still known for doing things in excellence. So that's when God can continue to trust you and elevate your purpose, elevate your platform, because He can trust you with your gift. Then it's doing it consistently. You have to figure out, what does it take for me to persevere? What are going
Mm-hmm.
to be those possible barriers to entry along the way? How am
Mm-hmm.
I going to be proactive, right? To make sure I
Mm-hmm.
jump over those hurdles as they come. And pretty much by any means necessary, I have to stay committed to my call. So if you can do you, do it well, and do it consistently, you'll have fulfillment, because that's what success is. It's fulfillment knowing you're doing what you're called to do every single day.
Let's talk about those hurdles, because sometimes we can focus too much on the hurdles. Like, we're talking about Black women with mental health issues, and we feel like that's a roadblock. You may feel like that's a hindrance to you. For me, I thought my mental breakdown was a hindrance, but actually, once I got the help that was needed, I quickly learned that it actually can propel me to who I'm supposed to be. So what advice
Mm-hmm.
would you give someone if they're facing hurdles to help them to overcome that part?
Look at your hurdles as opportunities. Everything is an opportunity. So that's what I do now. Everything is, if it's a lesson, then that means it's an opportunity. If it's an opportunity, then it's a miracle. So that's how I look at it. Now, I'm not going to lie. It don't feel like it. Okay? The
Right.
barriers don't, because there people probably like, girl, please. But barriers, they don't feel like miracles. They don't feel like opportunities. They don't even feel like lessons most of the time,
Yes.
but they are. So that's why you can't listen to feelings, but you have to go by facts. And so what I do is I see, okay, well, how did I get in this situation? Like, don't beat yourself up about it. It's just kind of like, learn. You're the CEO of your life. So the same way you have board meetings with your companies, you need to have a board meeting with yourself and say, okay, self, like, kind of, how did I get in this situation? What can I do to get out of it? How can I decrease the chances of this happening again? And you don't have to beat yourself up and say, oh, bad Keita, bad Marilyn, you should have did this. No, we're learning
Yeah.
so that we can do it better the next time. I think too often we're so focused on perfection rather than just purpose. So if you're just only focused on purpose, of course you're gonna make mistakes. Of course things are gonna get hard. Things are gonna
Right.
trip you up. That's life. Like, we're all in life. If that doesn't happen, then you must be in heaven already and try to save me a seat because I'm coming. But if you're but if you're here,
Yes.
trouble, life, that's what it brings. So it's just a matter of, okay, what can I learn from this situation so that I can do better the next time? So I think people need
Absolutely.
to give themselves more grace
Yes.
and manage themselves as if they're their own corporation, because that's what corporations do. They don't just say, oh, we shutting down the whole operation. No, they say, okay, Susie, Bill, come in here, we need to have a meeting, and we need to
Yes.
figure out, what do we need to do, right? What do we need to do
Yes.
different next time? So that's what you
Hmm.
have to do with yourself and say, okay, what do I need to do next time to make sure that I decrease the chances of this happening?
Absolutely. So if any of you are facing hardship, hurdles, it's time for you to take a break, face it head on, and figure out how do you navigate that process. And don't allow yourself to be led by your emotions. Give
Mm-hmm.
yourself that opportunity to grow through the process instead of your emotions overtaking you through all of that. I love that. The other thing I
Yes.
wanted us to, going back to the Black women with mental health and the idea of us pushing through, what are some tips and guides that you can really help Black women to, it's a process, right? But there's always, that one seed or one nugget that they can think about to change their trajectory instead of just pushing through. But now, what is the next step for them to say, you know what? I need to go and get help. I need to
Yes.
realize this pattern in life that I'm living. It looks unhappy. It doesn't feel right. My life is meant to be more than all of this. What advice would you give?
Good. I like to say now, instead of pushing through, you need to grow through. So you think about when a
Mm,
plant has to grow and all the different ingredients that it needs. It needs the water, it needs the sunlight, it needs the fertilizer. And that's what I look at as support. That's what support is. That's what having great boundaries are. That's what effective communication looks like. conflict resolution. All these components help you to be a healthier you, a more
Mm-hmm.
focused you. So one of the biggest things I notice with women is they put way much on them, more on themselves than they can bear. And that's where proper boundaries have to be in place. You have to know what to say yes to and what to firmly say no to. And we always hear this all the time, how no is a complete sentence.
Yes, it
And
is.
when you're used to being, because I'm a recovering people pleaser, if anybody, hey, any other recovering people pleasers, in the beginning it feels funny, it feels
Mm-hmm.
weird, you feel like you're not being a great friend, you feel like you're letting someone down if you're not always saying yes and meeting someone's needs. But what I realized is, relationships are based off of reciprocity. And so if you want to cultivate healthy relationships where there's a mutual exchange and get the support that you need, you have to learn how to say yes and how to say no. Now, I will say this, then it gets confusing. Well, I don't know what to say yes to. I don't know what to say no to. How do you pick? It goes back to your priorities. So I always tell people you need to identify what season you are in. So I'll give you an
Mm-hmm.
example. Like when I was getting my doctorate, that season I did not have a lot of time for friendships. I didn't have a lot of time for networking. My whole life was working full time, being a wife, taking care of my babies. Because why did I have babies and get my doctorate at the same time? I don't know, but we did. But I knew I had to have proper boundaries in place if I was going to get it done. So there was a
Right.
lot of things that I said no to. There were a lot of events I said no to. There were a lot of people I said no to. And you have to be okay with that. And these were people I love, people that I enjoy their company, that I
Yes.
admire and respect. But if they, and they did, if you love me and you respect my journey, then you will respect the amount of time that I'm able to allot for our friendship or our relationship. So I think that it's best that people first take an assessment of what season am I in? What are
Mm-hmm.
the most important parts of my life right now? And the majority of your 24 hours should go to the things that are most important to you. So I always tell people, pick your top, you should have your top three priorities. You may have more than that, but what's your top three? That's like your
Right.
starters, starter lineup. What's your top three? Once you have those top three, the majority of your hours should be based around cultivating, growing, and walking in your top three. And then any other time you have, you can devote to the rest. But when you do it that way, you're able to filter out, oh, wait, I like that, but don't make the top three. Nope, you know. It
Yes.
always goes back to figuring out not just your purpose, but then you have to prioritize your purpose so that you can effectively have the proper boundaries in place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are great words of wisdom. I know that we're coming down to the end of the conversation, and I know that you are hosting a very special night for those that would love to have
Hey.
that experience around one on one coaching with you. Tell us about that.
Yes, I'm so excited. So, this is the I Deserve More one night only group coaching experience. So, I know I have so many people that follow me on Facebook and they follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn, and they see how I'm helping NFL wives and NBA players and all these corporations, and they looking like, girl, I can't afford all of that. What you got going on? It sounds great, but that may be out of my bracket. And you know how I am, Marilyn. Like, I love women, I love people, I love pouring into people. So I'm like, well, what if I do a one night only experience? It'll be from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. October 29th, and all of my most valuable nuggets of wisdom related to professional and personal growth, self-love, healing, fulfillment, success for 2 whole hours. You're going to get my coaching, which, listen, like, if that's,
It's
y'all
still,
don't, they don't. I be trying to tell them, but it is a steal. It's only
yes.
149, 197 if you want it with the recording, so you can go back to it. But 2 hours worth of research based coaching activities, and y'all can see you're gonna have a good time too. Like, we're gonna have an
Yes.
amazing time, and it's just gonna
Yes.
be a safe space. Lots of healing, like what we were talking about, what Black women need.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be an amazing time of connection, of clarity, of focus,
Mm-hmm.
and of refreshing. And it's specifically for the ambitious, high achieving woman. And if you have to wonder if that's you, it probably not you. And it's okay. like you when you hear those trigger words, high achiever, ambitious,
Yes.
the people who are like, whoop,
They
whoop,
already
that's
know.
me. They
Yes.
are you already
They already
know. So
know.
if that
Yes.
that if that's you, this event is for you because you deserve that refreshing. You deserve to be poured into because you're always pouring into so many other leaders and people in your profession. So I'm excited. 2 whole hours, Marilyn, of coaching
Yes.
by me, back to
Yes.
back. Yeah, it's gonna be
Yes.
fun.
Yes.
Oh, so
I'm
to go
super
there,
excited.
bit.ly
Yeah.
slash more is mine. Bit.ly
Yes.
slash more is mine, and all the details are there.
Absolutely. And allow this conversation to be just a very, very, very small
Yeah.
seed of what the 2 hour experience would be like. If you are someone or know someone that needs help, especially with their mental health or just their overall growth and development, this is your opportunity to be poured back into. And of course, if you're tuning into the Live and Share podcast, you already know our platform is a resource for you as well to have candid conversations with resilient individuals like Dr. Joy about how they're staying committed to their call and purpose in addition to their faith. So thank you so much for sharing your
Thank you for
journey.
having me.
Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm your girl, Marilyn Shaw, and I will talk with you guys soon. Good night.